Well, good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast, and let's get this week started with Mailbag Monday. So Richard E. from Hereford in the UK asks, how did Smaug gather together his treasure hoard? Surely his size and lack of hands would have made it impossible to explore all the rooms and bring the treasure back to a single location. That's a good question. Now, my initial hunch was to say something along the lines of, well, I'm sure the dwarves had left most of their treasure in the main hall someplace, and all Smaug did was just pile it up into a nice little bed. Maybe using his wings like a broom, right? Seeing as how he lacks opposable thumbs, or tools, or really anything useful. And there is some backing for this. In an unexpected party, Thorin explains that Smaug, probably, for that is the dragon's way, has piled it all up in a great heap far inside, and sleeps on it for a bed. Well, there you have it. And that would make for a very easy answer if, in fact, that's all we had about the hoard. But in the Gathering of the Clouds, Bard goes to parley at the gate and explains, I am by right descent the heir of Girion of Dale, and in your hoard is mingled much of the wealth of his halls and towns, which of old Smaug stole. So, Smaug has done more than just pile all of the dwarves' gold to make a bed. He's stolen things from Dale, at least from Dale. Now, it's not exactly a long journey. It's maybe 5 miles based on the time that it takes the company to travel that distance. But it still raises a really good question. How did Smaug bring back the treasure of Dale to his hoard in Erebor? It could grip it by the husk. But then we'd have to determine if Smaug is a European dragon or an African dragon, the latter being non-migratory, of course. Sorry, not sorry, but those of you who don't listen to the Prancing Pony podcast should be forewarned that Monty Python will make random appearances from time to time. Seriously, though, folks, you're not going to be surprised to learn that there really is no clue in the text whatsoever that could give us anything even remotely close to a solid answer. So it is time for some speculation. And I'm going to start with a very popular idea about dragons in general. And this is the concept that when it comes to treasure, they actually eat their treasure and regurgitate it when they get back to their lair. Now, this idea is pervasive enough that there was actually a dragon magic spell introduced in Dungeons & Dragons 3.5. The spell was called Hoard Gullet, and it would allow a caster to hold a lot of treasure, or I guess anything they wanted to hold, in a magical second stomach. Now, the idea isn't completely off base. There are paleontologists who believe that there were actually dinosaur species that moved their eggs from one place to another by swallowing them and then regurgitating them at that new location. And this is apparently based on fossil evidence where a dinosaur's own egg was found inside their stomach. Still, that isn't something that Tolkien has ever so much as mentioned anywhere. Not only in The Hobbit, but in Farmer Giles, Beowulf, not in any of his things that ever mention dragons. So while it may be a popular theory, there's no support for it in Tolkien. But there is another Tolkien text about a dragon that suggests a different possibility for Smaug. And I'm going to read from chapter 21 of the Silmarillion of Turin Turambar. And now Turin stood alone, for the few that followed him had fled. But in that moment Glaurung issued from the gaping doors and lay behind, between Turin and the bridge. Then suddenly he spoke by the evil spirit that was in him, saying, Hail, son of Húrin, well met. Then Turin sprang about and strode against him, and the edges of Gurthang shone as with flame, but Glaurung withheld his blast and opened wide his serpent eyes and gazed upon Turin. Without fear, Turin looked into them as he raised up the sword, and straightway he fell under the binding spell of the lidless eyes of the dragon, and was halted, moveless. Then, for a long time, he stood as one graven of stone, and they too were alone, silent, before the doors of Nargothrond. Then, after an absolutely incredible monologue that I am almost certain to read on a Silmarillion Saturday sometime, we read this. And while he was yet held by the eyes of the dragon in torment of mind and could not stir, the orcs drove away the herded captives, and they passed nigh to Turin and crossed over the bridge. Among them was Finduilas, and she cried out to Turin as she went. But not until her cries and the wailing of the captives was lost upon the northward road did Glaurung release Turin, and he might not stop his ears against that voice that haunted him after. Later, Glaurung would encounter Turin's sister, Nienor. But Nienor, being thrown by her steed yet unhurt, made her way back to Amon Ethir, there to await Mablung, and came thus above the reek into the sunlight, and looking westward, she stared straight into the eyes of Glaurung, whose head lay upon the hilltop. Her will strove with him for a while, but he put forth his power, and having learned who she was, he constrained her to gaze into his eyes. And he laid a spell of utter darkness and forgetfulness upon her, so that she could remember nothing that had ever befallen her, nor her own name, nor the name of any other thing. And for many days she could neither hear, nor see, nor stir by her own will. Then Glaurung left her standing alone upon Amon Ethir, and went back to Nargothrond. So, when Mablung found her there later, like the text says, she can't talk, she can't see, she can't hear, she won't even walk on her own. And if Glaurung could cause that sort of enchantment against Turin and Nienor, remember, his spell was so powerful on her that she didn't remember any of this stuff until after he died. Well, it seems quite plausible that Smaug might borrow a few men from Dale to carry the treasure to his hoard. Granted, he likely fried them when they were finished, but it seems to me that a little dragon enchantment is the likeliest answer. But of course, that is still speculative. After all, Smaug is no Glaurung. So, if you have any thoughts, please let me know either in the comments or by email. And if you have a question you'd like me to answer, please email it to barnum@theprancingponypodcast.com. Just let him know it's for today's Tolkien Times, and I'll get to it soon. If these few minutes leave you wanting more Tolkien content, be sure to check out the Prancing Pony Podcast, where we've spent 7 years so far walking through the books, answering mailbag questions just like these, and having a nice chat at the pub about our favorite author. Please join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times for Tolkien Tuesday, as we learn more about the professor himself and the continuing saga of getting The Lord of the Rings published. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow or subscribe in your podcast apps to make sure each episode gets downloaded to your device. And follow @Tolkien Times on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.